Too much stuff going on here. Let's see. Hello, Rick. How are you? Go. Do this.
Okay, I got a good one now.
You do?
Did you hear about the cheese factory that exploded in France? Okay, I got a good one.
I did not.
There was nothing left but debris.
Oh. David.
It takes a little while to find one, but they have some good jokes on this thing.
There we go. Well, okay, we'll give folks maybe a couple more minutes. We are at Theoni's coming in, so we're at 7:33. We'll give a couple more minutes. And then we will get to our chatting. It's quite the day today.
Are you going to be the new bishop, Father Don?
Oh, no.
No?
I'm quite happy with the one that we have currently, so no need for any of that now. Certainly no need for that. Well, let's go one more minute. We'll let people log in, and then if it just takes a bit, it'll take a bit. And just for everybody's information, we are streaming out, simulcasting out to Facebook and to YouTube and to our website. So just to let you all know.
Okie dokie.
Yeah. So I guess we will we'll just get started. So hello, everyone, and welcome to our what normally would be our nightly praying of the Rosary. We are gathering together to discuss, just have an opportunity to discuss amongst ourselves and express whatever we want to express. At the news of the newly released documentary of Pope Francis, it's named Francesco. I have not been able to see it. Hi, Theoni. We haven't been able to see it, or I haven't been able to see it. I know that there are quite a few. I believe it was released in Europe, just especially in Europe. Let's see. Charlie's watching online as well. Amongst other things, he did, in these interviews, Pope Francis, I believe, really has the knack and the ability to sidestep the Vatican structure, really sidestep all of the people who monitor and correct and edit, when he writes an encyclical or when he writes letters out or major documents, they go through all of the different departments and make sure and verify that all of the information that he's written in there is not contrary to established doctrine and all of those things. But in these interviews, he's freer. He doesn't have the restrictions of having those folks that will monitor and change words before. So in that freedom, starting way back with his first apostolic journey, when he was on the plane, and one of the reporters asked him about, I believe, gay people in general, but certainly gay priests. His famous 5-word answer: "Who am I to judge?" So he's been able to use these circumstances and use these these times when he's alone and unedited to, I believe, at least change the way we think about things, change the way the church looks at things, and not in a necessarily a strict doctrinal manner, but uses the opportunity to change attitudes and express his inner thoughts about these things and get the message out. And clearly, the exciting news, at least for our community and communities all over the world, was that he reasserted, I think that's important to point out, he reasserted his position in support of civil unions for same-sex couples. It's interesting to, we in the United States, we've sort of combined the civil side of marriage and the religious side of marriage in one ceremony, where most of our counties and most of our states allow ministers, church ministers, ordained ministers, regardless of the ordination place or the ordaining agency or organization or church, allow those ministers to perform both the religious rite of marriage, but also allow and count that minister to be an official agent of the county or the state, and the civil portion of the marriage takes place at the same time. And while we're used to that in the United States, and so we think of marriage, same-sex marriage, as being a really big thing, and it is. I mean, don't get me wrong. We forget that in other places, like Canada, like Great Britain, like Mexico, and a lot of South American countries, a lot of European countries, the civil portion of the marriage and the religious portion of marriage are completely separate. So oftentimes people will go and have a civil ceremony and register and become married civilly, and then we'll follow that with a religious ceremony at their church or synagogue or temple or wherever it is that they choose to worship. Now, some don't, obviously. Some are just satisfied with a civil ceremony. Just like here in the United States, we can go to a county recorder, a county clerk, or an official, and receive a civil marriage without the religious rite that's attached to it. But oftentimes we combine them, so we forget that that there's a separation there. And so the Pope really did when he also made those assertions when he was Archbishop of Buenos Aires in Argentina. He said, look, he upheld church teaching and said that same-sex marriages, the rite of same-sex marriage, is not recognized, not valid in the church. But he stood up for the rights of gay couples, same-sex couples, and to have a civil union of some sort to be recognized. And he restated that in this documentary. And as I forget who it was that mentioned, I read a lot of different news reports, but whoever it was that said this mentioned that they thought it was very smart of the filmmaker that it wasn't a voiceover of the Pope's translation or the translator or the Pope himself saying these words over nice images. It was an actual footage of him saying the words itself. So we now know. What are the bigger implications of this? Well, there perhaps maybe for the Western world, for Europe, for the United States, for some of the South American countries, Latin American countries, not as big a deal, because obviously in Canada and the United States, and I believe it's going through the Senate now, and in Mexico, same-sex marriage is legal. And for a lot of countries in Europe, same-sex marriage is legal. It's just the law of the land. And so the Pope's words for us in the Western world, really, it doesn't move the needle very much. We see support. He certainly has sent the message in a couple in his latest encyclical, Fratelli Tutti, which I'm still reading. he sends a clear message to the United States and to those more conservative factions of the Catholic Church in the United States that we all just need to get along, and we need to stop being so dogmatic and strict and well orthodox in our approach to religion. And so now he has amplified that with the release of this documentary, amplified those words. So clearly he's sending a message to to the churches of the Western world. But I think more importantly, and probably where it does move the needle quite a bit, is in African countries and in the Slavic countries, Poland especially, that's going through such turmoil right now, with the bishops being very, very aggressive and very, very condemning of the LGBTQ community in Poland and in those countries and in Africa. He's sending a very clear message to at least the bishops of the church that we need to stop the persecution of this community and begin to embrace and to begin a walk with that community. I think it's going to be it's going to be, certainly it'll be met with, the words will be met and the idea will be met with some pushback, as far as some of like the Polish bishops, rainbow devils and all sorts of different really derogatory and words have been used to describe the LGBTQ community. For those of you who have downloaded or have seen the graphics for our the Rosary for the LGBTQ community that we've written here and that we're reflecting on this month, the graphic of the Our Lady of Czestochowa icon with the rainbow in the halo, that was designed by a Polish artist, and we were able to connect with that Polish artist, and we were able to get permission for us to use that. But that graphic itself, people, just for posting that graphic, people have gone to jail. People have been on trial for crimes against religion and offending religious sensibilities. People have, and potentially risk jail sentences for displaying that image. So the Pope making that statement, making a very public statement, as far as the community needs to be embraced. The community should be welcomed. The community has a right to have a family, should not be thrown out of family, should not be thrown out of society, is just a momentous occasion. It's a momentous thing that he has done. As I said, not so much for us here in the Western world, but certainly for those countries that are still undergoing strict persecution, strict prejudice, and strict bias. He certainly has made major steps there. How did the news affect any of you? What are your thoughts?
Hello, my
Hi.
name is Rick Landavazo. I'm a former president of Dignity.
Oh, great. Hi, Rick.
Hi. My question or concern is how this might affect the reasoning, if it would at all, of the Supreme Court, as if they were to reconsider the Obergefell decision. A majority of the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, is Catholic, and I wonder if this might influence them in some way, or what you're thinking of that might be.
Yeah, I think I read that 6, and if Amy Coney Barrett is approved, then it's 7. I think 7 Catholics will be 6 or 7 Catholics will be on the Supreme Court, and I would hope, it would be my hope that it's a two-edged sword with me. So first of all, I would hope that as Catholics, they would certainly take the Pope's words into account and would maybe think about that. But the other side of me, our institution says that the reason that Supreme Court justices are appointed for life is so that they don't fall to the fancies and the whims of current political happenings. So one part of me says that they, will maintain that objectivity and will maintain that sense of lifelong service. But I would hope that they would, look at the Oberfeld decision and maybe take the words of the Pope to heart and uphold it and keep it. Certainly, I was thinking about this. It's interesting that you asked, Rick. I was thinking about this because, on the way back, I was driving and I was on my way home, and I was thinking, gosh, I haven't. I know quite a few heterosexual married couples, and not a single one of their marriages have blown up or dissolved because same-sex couples are able to marry. And I hope that the hysteria and the bias and the prejudice has passed away, and we've had time to realize that allowing people who love one another, regardless of their gender, that it's not, when we get past all the hysteria, that it's okay, and it's the right thing to do. And so I would hope that they would certainly at least listen to the Pope and take that into consideration. But that's really an excellent point to make. It's an excellent point to listen to. Hopefully, and as I said, I think to a certain extent it may not move the needle so much. The Pope in the documentary, as I was going to say, was also very critical of other things that the United States has to do, especially critical of our policies on separating families at the border, and with the Pope coming out and saying, you just cannot be a Christian and do that. Flat out, saying you just cannot do that as a Christian. So I think there's a lot of meat on that bone that people, especially perhaps of a particular political persuasion or perhaps of a particular political view, need to chew on and really think about. And certainly with, I think, 5 of those 7 Catholics or 4 of those 6 Catholics are on the Republican side of the aisle. So I think that certainly would give them pause and give them something to think about, especially not only with the same-sex civil unions and same-sex marriage, but also with considering, any kind of challenges to the Trump border policy and those sort of things, that they really look at that more closely and hopefully have a more humanitarian, at least, if anything, at least humanitarian view towards their decision making. I hope that I didn't ramble. I hope that answered.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you see any kind of effect in the local diocese?
Well, thankfully, thanks be to God, both of our bishops are very supportive. Certainly, Bishop McElroy is very, very supportive of Pope Francis's stance on the LGBTQ community, and I think he's been very open with communication with us as Dignity. He certainly knows that we're here. He certainly has expressed zero problem with us existing, and he has invited me to attend certain things. Personally, I have a handwritten postcard from him somewhere, inviting me to come and attend and be part. So I don't think it's going to be a negative for us. There are other dioceses across the United States, Indiana, some dioceses in Indiana, some dioceses in Michigan, where I think it'll be more of a problem, that there will be a greater pushback, especially the Diocese of Detroit, where some of the hardcore traditional radical traditionalist, groups like Church Militant and those kind of groups exist and are there. So they will probably have some pretty hard pushback there. But I don't think for us, for our diocese or any of the dioceses in California, even in San Francisco, I don't see, even with Cordileone, Archbishop Cordileone in San Francisco, I don't know that there'll be any changes to policy or any kind of drastic um, blowback from it. I think we'll carry on, and for those dioceses that are welcoming and supportive, will continue to open up and expand, and you probably see more um, more signs of welcome, especially to the LGBTQ community, to come back to church and be a part of church and not be left out. And then hopefully maybe this is some baby steps in some of those dioceses that are more traditional, more closed to the LGBTQ community. I can pray that that's what will happen. But locally, I can only express gratitude and praise for our local bishop as far as being open to dialogue and open to communication and being open to experience of our community. I think it's great. And certainly our auxiliary bishop, Bishop Dolan, was the pastor at St. John the Evangelist before he was ordained to the episcopate. So if anybody certainly has firsthand experience with the LGBTQ community within the Catholic Church, it would be Bishop Dolan, certainly from his pastorship.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Anybody? I know Charlie is texting me. He asks via text, how will it affect people accepting gay couples having sex in their relationship? Well, that's in or accepting gays, not accepting gays, accepting gays. Well, I think, as I said, Charlie, and for everybody else, to answer the question, I don't think it will move the needle so much here in these areas. In those other areas, in those other countries, in those other regions of the world where LGBTQ persecution continues to exist and is strong, I think that there probably will be some conversations started, and there will be some uncomfortable times of growing pains and figuring out exactly how the new attitude, the new words, even though it's not doctrinal, how that will affect everybody. I think that remains to be seen. As far as couples having sex within their relationship, the official teaching of the church, I'll always start there. The official teaching of the church is that sex outside of marriage is a sin, is wrong, whether it be for a heterosexual person or a homosexual person. That being said, it's rather archaic and an attitude, and I think that most priests across the United States or even across the world probably would have a hard time continuing to condemn somebody for that. And I think our attitudes will probably change as we get older and as we grow as a group. I think we'll be okay on that. So we will be it's certainly not, as I said, it's not doctrine, it's not official positioning. He didn't and honestly he probably cannot issue an ex cathedra statement that this is infallible and this is the new teaching of the church. He can't do that, but certainly he can start to change opinions and minds synodally, so appointing new bishops across the world that share in some of his ideology, appointing cardinals to the College of Cardinals who will vote to replace him. So one of them will be his replacement. So him being able to put cardinals on the College of Cardinals that will share in his vision, will share in his idea, which I believe is just a a going back to the spirit and the ideology of Vatican II. We went through two popes, Pope St. John the Second and Pope Benedict, that really kind of put the brakes on the church as far as the reforms of Vatican II go. And so I think Pope Francis is moving us back into that opening and into that reform idea, especially the reforms of Vatican II. And so I think as we continue to see that grow, that spirit grow, that there will be some changes, and there will be changes at least in attitude first, and then dogma second. There was a cardinal theologian whose name escapes me, who is famous for saying that any change in the church takes 250 years, no matter what you want to change. Takes 250 years to get there. So we're planting seeds now for great oaks to grow later. So that's, you know, kind of the world that we live in and the faith that we ascribe to. So, but thank you for that, Charlie. I think that's all you have. Yeah, that's all you have there. What else? We have some other folks that are quiet. I know Bill is watching on Facebook. Hey, Bill. He's from back east, so it's late. It's almost 11 o'clock there for him. But we're happy that he's there. Anybody? John, you?
Yeah. So, you know, a lot of times we get the, and I might get this wrong, but the Catholic Conference of Bishops, or so a lot of times they come out with enforcing their own views about what's going on. And I've seen, and I might be wrong, I've seen some in the past where they go against what Vatican was saying we should be moving, you know, towards, and they turn around and direct us in a different path.
Right.
Do we know what the feeling is with that particular group? Are they warming up to this, or have they even made any comments about it?
I have not seen anything from the USCCB. And that doesn't mean that they haven't thrown anything out. And in fact, I can pull up their website and see if they have, you know, if there is a statement that they've made so far. But the Conference of Bishops is, let's see. Yeah, they don't have anything on their latest news. So, bishop conferences across the world are interesting. The way that the church hierarchy works is each bishop is the ultimate responsibility in his diocese. So, unless it is directly in violation of church law or canon law, or church teaching against the magisterium, Bishop McElroy can do whatever he pretty well wants to do in his diocese. As we've seen, Bishop Paprocki in India, I think it's Indianapolis, who really just decides to do what he wants to do. And again, as long as it's within church teaching. And then those bishops from the dioceses of various countries come together under their council. So we have the United States Council, there's the Canadian Council of Bishops, there's the Mexican Council of Bishops, you know, each country or each region of a country, if it's so large. And then they set the policies for their dioceses, their conferences, or their councils, excuse me. So when the U.S. bishops come together and create policy, they have the right to do so, even if it, you know, as long as it doesn't violate, again, canon law or, you know, tradition and the teachings, the magisterium of the church. As long as it's not in violation of that, the various councils of bishops across the United States or the world, excuse me, have the authority and the ability to do whatever it is that the Spirit moves them to do. because they all share the synod, or the synodal idea of bishops across the world, is that the Pope is the Bishop of Rome, and he's looked at as the first among equals. So all the bishops across the world are equal to the Pope. They have the authority to do what they want to do, just like the Pope does in Rome. He has the authority to do whatever, a local bishop has the authority to do whatever they want to do in their local diocese. Where the Pope comes into play is that we have determined that as a church that he is the ultimate authority because of the successorship to Peter and just the special role that we have ascribed to him as the Bishop of Rome, or as the pontiff. So that's so it's entirely possible. Again, there are still, as we were talking about with Rick, there are still dioceses across the world or across the country, I should say, that are very conservative, that are very, and so they can sway the way that conferences or councils vote and operate. You see that with the Episcopal Church or the Anglican Communion across the world. There are very conservative factions of that Anglican Union that come from, did I say African or Anglican? Anyway, did I say African or?
No, you said
okay.
Anglican.
Okay, good. So there are conservative factions from the continent of Africa that are part of the Anglican Communion. And if you remember, or maybe you don't, a few years ago when Kathy Jeffords was sworn in as the first presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church, the Catholic Church, or the Anglican Church in the United States, and when they ordained Gene Robinson as the first openly gay bishop in the Episcopal Church, the Anglican Communion removed voting rights from the United States, from the Episcopal Church in the Anglican Communion, as punishment for these things. And it was mostly because of the influence of the more conservative factions of the communion worldwide. So we certainly see that dynamic happening in the Catholic Church, in the local conferences or councils, where more conservative thinking bishops can sway, can have impact, can have voice, and can, affect the outcome of a particular vote or opinion. And certainly, there's not been much good news, which has come out of the U.S. Council of Bishops Committee for Religious Liberty. Unfortunately, they they kind of toe the line with saying that religion's under attack, our freedoms are under attack, and I still have yet to see any proof of anybody's religion being under attack. Churches are still open or operating virtually, or during the pandemic. But once the pandemic is done, no one will be prohibited from worshiping the God, the way that they wish to worship. And so there is no attack on religious liberties, that I see. But I fear that as long as we continue to have that mentality, then we will continue to see anti-LGBTQ policy, anti-trans community policy, all of those things, which are they're just so easy to target, because they create the boogeyman. They can be the boogeyman. So it's real easy to use us as the targets of hatred and the targets of everything else. And Sandra Rossetti, the Rossetti family is watching, yay, on Facebook, and it says, Sandra says, we just need to nurture and feed those seeds of change. Yes, absolutely. We do need to feed and nurture the seeds of change. It takes, as Christ tells us in the Gospels, faith the size of a mustard seed, the smallest seed known on the planet. faith that's as with a mustard seed can grow into a big tree and can move mountains with faith that size. So that's all we have to have. We have to continue to be witnesses and continue to have that faith. Anything else? Anybody have anything else? It's 8:07, so no. Well, okay. Good. I'm sorry.
Do you think is Dignity San Diego going to use this bit of change in any way to pressure the diocese or advocate for more inclusion?
We send I send regular letters off to the bishop, and I will certainly send something to him now. We were in talks for a little bit of actually being able to return to a diocesan campus. We were offered to hold mass at the old chapel at Sharp Hospital, the old Sisters of Mercy chapel. But unfortunately that kind of fell through, but that's okay. Talks continue. And so, yes, I'll reach out to the bishop and we will continue to chat. I know that St. John the Evangelist continues to have at least a monthly, or it was monthly. I don't know if they have gone back to a new schedule, an LGBTQ friendly, or at least an advertised LGBTQ friendly mass. Was the fourth Sunday? Was it the fourth Sunday of the month at 6 p.m. the evening mass? So hopefully we can see some more change, and I'll certainly be in contact with him and see if he plans. And I'll certainly watch for any statements that he will make, that he'll make in the future. So yeah.
Cool. All right. I have to go.
Right.
So I'll
Okay.
see you guys later.
All right.
You.
Thanks Yep, absolutely. Thanks for hopping on.
All right. Take care.
And thanks to everyone. Is that it? Unless anybody has anything else, I will bid everyone a good evening. And thanks for the last minute joining and coming back on. And I'll take this opportunity to do as I always do and remind folks that we're here every night, Monday through Saturday at 7 p.m. for our praying of the Rosary. And we gather at Sundays at 6 p.m. for our Liturgy of the Word. We do it via video conference just like this, and then simulcast out to all of our social media. And then our Rosary is just a live stream that's on our social media pages. So I hope to see you all very, very soon. So until we do, good night, everyone. God bless. Take care. And we will see you all later. Bye-bye now. You're welcome. Bye-bye.